Hi, everyone. I'm Hannah Lee from the EO team. Welcome to the very first live streaming session of EO Studio. So we're in for an hour of in-depth conversation with the founder featured on EO with Snow Lee. And as many of you are looking forward to the event, I'm just going to give a bit of an introduction into what EO has been doing so far and what we hope to achieve through this webinar today. So EO stands for Entrepreneurship and Opportunities, and we have been making content about startup entrepreneurs and investors from all over the world. And our mission is to empower entrepreneurship in every single individual who watches our videos. And recently, we have launched the EO Builders Club, which features the founders who have been
스크립트 한 번이다.
sorry, who have
Sorry.
been featured on EO, and we bring in the founders to have in-depth conversations with the members. It's a private membership for founders and entrepreneurs that are fit for our mission. And today we have and more about the EO Builders Club. We host exclusive content such as webinars where we invite the entrepreneurs to have live Q&A with us. We also have a cohort-based learning program where we have education videos from top-tier VCs and entrepreneurs who share their insights about what is usually only accessible in areas such as Silicon Valley. So we're very excited to be launching this online membership. And surprisingly, we have been getting a lot of great applicants so far. And today we're very excited to be introducing to you Snow Lee, who has just joined as one of the founder members of the EO Builders Club. And the topic of this session is about how he actually sold his first two startups to Kakao and Buzzvil, two are very big IT tech companies in Korea. And at the last exit with the second startup by Buzzvil, he was actually working there for 4 years as a CPO. And from then on, he has actually decided to found a third startup with the very same co-founders that he did the first two startups with. So we're going to be hearing more about the journeys he had before as an entrepreneur, as a leader, and also what he's experiencing now as a very small 3-person startup at the moment. So I'm very excited to be introducing Snow for you today and to be able to feature one of our very own members of the Builders Club. So as Snow comes in, I'll be introducing him, and then he'll be giving a keynote presentation for about 30 minutes. And after the presentation, there will be a live Q&A session just allotted for all of the participants today. So if you have any questions during the webinar, please leave your questions in the live chat room, and we will be doing our best to cover as many of them as possible. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce Snow and welcome him aboard.
Hi, Hannah. Thank you for the great introduction. Hey, thank you for having me, and I will try my best to share the interesting story with you. Hey, so let me jump in. Many people equate founders and with leaders. Meanwhile, not all founders are necessarily good leaders, and vice versa. Although founders and leaders share many similarities and have complementary concepts, but they differ as much as they converge. Today, I will share my experiences as both a founder and a leader. I'm Snow, the CEO of Runbear. Before founding Runbear, I co-founded two startups. One was acquired by Buzzvil, one was acquired by Kakao, one of the top companies in Korea. And another one was acquired by Buzzvil, a startup but valued at $200 million. After joining Buzzvil, I led teams as chief architect and CPO for over 4 years. I founded Runbear with my third-time co-founder, Liam. In less than a year, we have experienced a lot of struggles. Last December, we launched Plugbear, and it is growing fast. You can think of Plugbear as a Zapier for LLM apps. While creating LLM apps or custom GPTs is becoming easier, integrating them into everyday work tools like Slack, Microsoft Teams, or HubSpot remains challenging. Plugbear enables customers to easily connect their custom LLM apps to their everyday work tools, improving work performance with AI. Within 3 months, over 1,200 companies have signed up to use Plugbear, and the number of paying customers is regularly increasing. Okay, so let's get back to the topic. The roles expected of leaders and founders overlap significantly, but there are crucial differences. Let me start with the mistakes I made. My first startup in 2011 had seven co-founders, including myself. We all committed to equal shares and responsibilities, which initially propelled us forward quickly. Everyone was CEO. We worked day and night every day. As the team grew and I formally became the CEO, I believed that it was my mission not to break the existing culture. I consistently communicated to my colleagues that my position as CEO was nominal, roles were meaningless, and that we have all equal powers and responsibilities. I truly believed that this structure was the best way to motivate all the team members. However, the lack of clear role definitions eventually hindered our growth, leading to prolonged discussions and indecision. Especially when we needed to pivot, we had to spend days and weeks for endless arguments. At that time, I think we had many good founders, but no good leaders. This led me to contemplate leadership. So to compare leaders and founders, let's quickly check leadership and entrepreneurship. It's a shame that I didn't truly learn about leadership until after selling my businesses and joining a larger organization. The first significant insight I had about leadership was that leadership can be learned and improved over time. How can we define leadership? Strong charisma, capabilities, charms, or power? Some people think that leaders are born, not made. I strongly disagree with them. As you can see, leadership is defined as an activity. Activities can always be learned and improved. Personally, I'm a fan of coaching leadership style. While leading several team leaders at Buzzvil, one of them asked for my advice. Buzzvil, as an ad tech company, we had several customer cohorts, advertisers, publishers, and end users. She was struggling with defining priorities between the cohorts. At the time, I was reading the book, Coaching for Performance. Although I had some ideas to suggest, I tried applying coaching techniques, and the result was remarkable. She defined a clearer target customer than I had in mind and gaining more insights through customer interviews. Yes, right. It took more time to make outcomes at first, but the long-term output was way, way better. Without learning this leadership style, I would have stagnated. This approach allowed me to lead up to 7 product teams at Buzzvil simultaneously, contributing to a threefold increase in annual revenue. Entrepreneurship can be also learned and improved over time, definitely. It's not just about creative idea, courage, experience, or funding capabilities. See, right? Entrepreneurship is also defined as an activity. Runbear is my third startup, but it feels like my first because it is mission-driven, unlike my previous opportunity-driven startups. My first startup was founded simply for joy of creating services, while my second focused on growing Indian market. Right. While discovering a good business opportunity is important, right? But focusing solely on opportunities can lead to losing direction during tough times, such as pivoting. Some lessons can only be learned through experiences. Thanks to my experiences, I deeply emphasized and learned from famous books like 0 to 1, Traction, and Effectuation. Runbear has already pivoted several times in its first year. We have launched more than 7 products, including landing MVPs. But this time, the pivots were not as painful as before. These were all driven by a larger mission, making us feel that we were progressing through learning. Yep, finally, let's compare founders and leaders. I have 2-year-old boy who amazes me every day with his growth, learning things like how to eat spaghetti. While I really wish to nurture him for life, I understand that the ultimate goal of parenting is independence. Similarly, the ultimate goal of leaders and founders is independence of those they lead. However, leaders nurture team members. Leaders want their team members to grow, be promoted, and finally act independently. While founders nurture the businesses, although we love our businesses, we still prepare exit plans. This distinction has led me to make different decisions at critical moments as a leader and as a founder. A leader's performance is evaluated by their team's success. Various leadership styles have evolved, especially in Silicon Valley over the last decade, focusing on mentoring, coaching to enable team members to grow independently. Generally, leaders are encouraged to create an environment where team members can achieve success as players rather than taking the direct actions themselves. While this approach requires time for team members to learn, it's believed as a way to achieve more. When I took the CPO position at Buzzvil, I needed to redefine customer problems. As I introduced earlier, there were many types of customers, including advertisers, publishers, ad consumers, and further subdivisions. Although I really enjoy meeting customers, it's clear that I cannot meet them all. Most importantly, I understand that the insight gained by team members through interviews are much more beneficial than the lessons I can provide. This led to various activities, including one-on-ones, nudging, and setting OKRs and more, which took time but were necessary. On the other hand, founders are evaluated by their business success. They even often don't have a chance to be evaluated by others. Founders must be players on the field, especially when seeking product market fit in a rapid changing market. Now, as a co-founder of Runbear, I initially considered dividing customer engagement between team members and myself. Now we have 5 people, but I quickly abandoned the idea. Every single customer story is crucial to me. I needed to unlearn what I learned as a leader. While I do appreciate mentoring and coaching leadership, sitting on the bench is not an option for me as a founder, at least for now. Let's talk about the delegation. Delegation is usually categorized into 5 to 7 levels. For example, level 1, do as I say. Level 2, research and report. 3, investigate and recommend. 4, decide and inform. And finally, 5, act independently. The delegation level should be used differently for different situations. You cannot expect a baby to learn how to run by themselves when the baby cannot even walk yet. As a leader, I strive to maintain levels 3 to 5 as much as possible. Of course, no one can start as an expert from the beginning. Thus, I use initial levels for new members, but I try to move quickly to level 3. On the other hand, as a founder, I adjust the delegation level based on the tasks rather than the person. Startups need generalists more than specialists, requiring team members to quickly learn and perform unfamiliar tasks. If I clearly understand the task, I use level 1. If I know the direction, but not the details, level 3. If quick action followed by learning is needed, level 4. Expectations. We all have expectations for others. Both leaders and founders seek fast learners, of course. The difference is that leaders look for individuals who can quickly perform their roles and beyond, while founders seek those who can solve problems. For example, as a CPO, I looked for members with or capable of quickly learning PM skills. On the other hand, as a founder, now I'm looking for members who can learn how to solve the problems, whatever the problem is. Because of these expectations, hiring complete juniors as an early stage startup founder feels particularly challenging due to lack of patience. Most founders choose to be poor leaders of a successful business rather than good leaders of a failed one. But as a leader, we should be patient and lead members to grow for the long-term goals. Once I had an underperformer in one of my teams at Buzzvil. At that time, I was reading the Netflix No Rules Rules. I was inspired by the Netflix's management philosophy. And because of that, I initially thought that firing him was the best move. However, the upper leader of the underperformer suggested that while he might not fit for the current team, he could excel in another. His current team was working on a new project requiring the ability to define and solve undefined problems, which seemed to cause anxiety for him. I changed his team, and the result was astonishing. He became the top performer and an opinion leader of the new team. This experience taught me not to rush to the judgment based on the other company's philosophies. So resilience. Resilience is well-known required capability for founders. We fall down so many times a day, but we always get back up, right? I remember that the day of OpenAI Dev Day last year. Do you know that it is called as the Red Wedding because it killed thousands of startups on the day, including us. But we didn't give up. Interestingly, the Dev Day, it opened the new opportunities for us. Thank you, OpenAI. So long story short, these are the differences between leaders and founders that I found. Despite the differences, becoming a good founder may not be so different from becoming a good leader. The differences are significantly influenced by the endless responsibility and the anxiety of being a founder. While anxiety-driven motivation can accelerate actions in short term, it risks misdirection and is unsustainable in the long run. Founders also need to be patient, trust members, and lead the team to achieve more. A good leader is not just a silent supporter or someone who makes members do as he or she says. Instead, focusing on long-term goals, building an environment that fosters team growth, and taking the final responsibility make a good leader. In this way, while leaders and founders may make different short-term decisions based on the situations and objectives, their ultimate goals align. While becoming a good leader may not be mandatory to become a successful founder, I do believe successful founders must become good leaders. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Snow. Thank you for the presentation. All right. So you gave us a brief explanation of how you underwent a lot of these experiences of being a founder, wanting to be a leader, and also trying to learn from other different philosophies and finding your own ground in the middle. So I think there's a lot of stories to tell in between those moments that you mentioned. So I think we're going to dive into them. So as people were just listening, if you had any questions during the talk that you want to ask during this live live session, please make sure to do so in the live chat. We will be covering them as we go. But I just first wanted to start off with the last part that you mentioned with Runbear, because you mentioned that with the founder mentality that founders need to have, OpenAI Dev Day was one of the moments when you faced difficulties in your previous sort of idea. So can you tell us a little bit more about what your journey has been so far with Runbear and also building Plugbear?
Great. Thank you for asking. You know, I can talk whole day, but let me try to make it short. Okay. So our previous product, actually, the product is still live and it's running. We have the customers. The product is Runbear, and it's helping the customers with the technical support, and especially related to the DevOps part. So you can consider it as a little bit vertical side of the AI Copilot. And at the moment, OpenAI Dev Day, OpenAI launched two big products. One is OpenAI GPTs, and another one is the OpenAI Assistants. We know that the Runbear provides unique value prop. We know that our product is different, but we were really worried about that. Our customers may not understand that because the building AI is getting more easier and easier. So we needed to compete with not just with the competitors, other players. We needed to compete with the engineering teams inside of the customers. That's the point. We were stuck and we were shocked. So at the moment, we think about it, we considered about it, and what we were missing, what we can do. And at the time, we realized that we spent more time on integrations rather than building the core of AI itself to build the Runbear. So we even researched to find another solutions so that if we can use that kind of integration solutions for the Runbear, and we couldn't find the best one for us. So we jumped in. We spent 1 or 2 weeks to launch the product. And just after launching the product, we got some traction, and we are now in the middle of the growth. Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you. I know that was a very hard moment to sort of say that we're not going to give up and we're going to go in this new direction. And I think especially because this was your third startup, I feel that there must have been a lot of practices that you had to unlearn in order to make those decisions. So can you tell me a little bit more about the mission that you were trying to achieve as this was your third startup, and how what kind of things you had to unlearn during the process?
That's a good point. It's difficult to pick, but if I choose one thing, so I have in mind right away that I needed to unlearn the OKRs. So OKR is one of the top, one of my favorite framework to achieve something. So at the Buzzvil, I was the one of the biggest fan of the OKRs. So
Can you
we
explain
align.
OKR a little bit before you go further?
Great. So it stands for the objective and key results. So you can think of it something like the KPIs or other frameworks, but it's a little bit different. The concept is really simple, but still the team decide the objectives and define the key results to track if they are on track or at risk. So we usually run OKRs for each quarter. So we spend quite a lot of time to decide which objectives we are going to pursue this quarter. And then it takes quite much discussion and time to decide which number we will track. And then also there is a concept between the input metrics, output metrics, and the lagging leading metrics. So anyway, it's very good framework. But as a founder, as an early stage founder, we change the objectives every week.
Ah.
We need it. So one of the thing I like, one of the sentence I like is that the agile framework actually it was built for the situations that when the team faces the unexpected situations. So if we use the agile for after building the objective and pursue for 3 months, maybe agile is not the good framework for that situation. But for us, we need to listen to customers. We need to define the next 2 weeks objective, totally different objectives this week. So in that case, I needed to unlearn the frameworks I learned.
All right, all right. That's great. That's great. And a little bit more about also the delegation process, because now that we're talking about frameworks, I think we can talk about how team operates as being the leader and the founder. And you mentioned that you have to determine the a suitable situation that you are in order to delegate in order to choose the delegation level of the tasks that you're going to give to your team members. And but I feel like it's easy to say, but it's really hard to carry out, to really objectively see the urgency of a problem and to also align that with your team. And you mentioned a little bit of an example of with your team member. And I was wondering, were there any failures in terms of the delegation that you failed first and then you realized, oh, this is what I should have done?
That's great. That's great question. Yeah, I face it all the time, even now. I mean, yeah, we cannot perfect. We cannot write for all the time and all the things, right? So that's a good example. So when I think that the member can do something by themselves, and I used the level 4. But after the thing is done, actually it was different direction, totally different direction. Then I give the feedback to him or her, then the whole process should be started again, right? So that's the wrong delegation. And I faced it time to time. But these days, so I clearly shared my thought, and we all the team, the Runbear team, discussed about how we can manage this delegation. So the alignment is quite important. So every team members understand what the level delegation is, and they don't get hurt even if I use the delegation level 1, because they know that this is decided by the task, not the person. So that can be very helpful. That is very helpful for me now.
And the how you talk to your team members, I'm sure because it's a smaller team now, I feel that I think a lot of early stage founders would resonate with you in terms of how closely you work together as an early startup team. And sometimes I think you also mentioned in the presentation that you have to sort of uh think about how you are nurturing your team members versus also having a successful business and nurturing that business successfully. And because you're working so closely with the team, I feel that sometimes it's very hard for founders to uh put make that decision to sometimes put the business first, or also vice versa, make the decision to see the long-term goal, whereas you're a founder, you need to get out there and really serve your business. So for you, what has been the biggest problem or a challenge in prioritizing the right team or business in terms of choosing the right leadership strategy for you?
Oh, wow. Difficult question. Right, right. Okay. So always, I think that the most difficult part is related to the people, right? So it's not it's not about founders or leaders, but we time to time we face the people that may not fit the team. It's not matter of he or she or the team. It's not the fit, right? or there can be some the wrong person or wrong team. But anyway, so in that case, we need to make the decision. It's same to the founders and the leaders. And I don't have that many experiences of letting people go, but actually, I also found that sometimes the faster decision helped us and helped the member. So I'm sorry that I cannot give you clear answers, but yeah, I think that the people is quite important for the leaders and founders together.
Yeah. And just a bit more about that then. Because you're doing your third startup with your previous co-founders. So can you tell me a little bit more about uh how you found those co-founders and what got you to work together once again on this treacherous journey of building another startup?
Great, great. Uh, so let me start with short answers. The first time startup co-founders, they are all the co-founders for my third until my third startups. So we started the first journey, we started second journey also, and this time I started one of them, this new startup. But then in that case, I may have the questions that why don't you start with all of them this time, right? So it's the question I sometimes got. So as time goes by, I got married. I also have a kid, and then my other co-founder, have their grow their thoughts and their own society and their own careers. So lately, probably 2 or 3 years, 2 years ago, 1 or 2 years ago, we discussed about our future, all of our futures. They are very close, my friends, close to my friends. So and I just asked, what do you want to do in the future? So I was thinking about starting new startup, but I was wondering what they want to do. And it was quite different at the moment. And then also even someone who is thinking about starting new startup, uh, the direction of what he or she wants is different from mine. I wanted to go global. I wanted to start with the B2B SaaS. And yeah, that's the basic differences. So I realized that, oh, when we are young, the direction or the philosophies or our lifestyle and life goals were not that matters. We were together and we have fun. We can do the things together. But the individual, team, and the customers, all the goals should be aligned to make the long running companies. I learned. So in that matter, I deeply discussed with each of them. And the Liam, this time co-founder, we have quite similar life goals and the business goals. So we decided to start together.
All right. And then on top of the co-founders, also, I know that you're slowly incrementing the size of your team. And I feel that a lot of early startup founders are also wondering a lot about how you're formulating the team. And I think that also is very dependent on what kind of business you're running, right? So so regarding the industry that you're in and the kind of business that you're running, what did you think was the most important factor in terms of hiring talents? And what kind of standards are you going with as you're looking for the new talents to recruit?
That's great. That's great. Uh, I can talk about the principles. So we are one of the core principles we decided when we start this company were two. One is customer centric, another one is lean approach. So we are trying to stick to the lean approach. We are going to hire the people when we actually need it. We are going to get funded. Actually, we need it. And we are going to decide the funding amount based on the goals and plans, not just the opportunities. Yeah. So that's our approach. On the other hand, I also like this approach. It's blitz scaling approach, you know. So blitz scaling, it's pursuing the really fast growth, and it bears that inefficiency in there. Of course, a lot of people, a lot of money gathered. Of course, there will be some inefficiency, but blitz scaling, ignore them and pursue the growth. That's a great approach, but not always success, not always easy. Of course, it's very difficult. But if I need to choose one, I choose the lean because I believe that it makes our team much stronger and it helps us to keep the higher the bars when we acquire talents. So to be honest, it makes us a little bit difficult to hire more people because our standards are high. We are not going to hire the many people at once. But still, I believe we are having success in that approach, and then we are going to keep this approach.
May I ask, what kind of questions you usually ask in order to really tell that this person is to the point that you're looking for, and also what you think about sort of hiring juniors versus seniors, because you mentioned a little bit about that in your presentation as well. How do you think also that changes as you're running this very early stage startup?
Good point. The standard has been changed so much between the as a leader and as a founder. So yeah, let me talk about the founders now. Uh, to be honest, I, we have 5 people, right? We have five people, including the co-founders. The all other 3 people, we have worked together before. Yeah, somehow we have worked together before. So at first, we are not hired someone strange. We are not going to have the screening interviews to hire someone because we need the trust. We don't have enough time to validate something about the feat or the ability or the things. So the question is quite difficult for me because I don't ask the questions because I understand. But of course I had the conversation and I tried to figure out something. The something is about the resilience. I know that the members can self-motivated. I know that they are very good at the engineerings and the other things. And I know that the motivation that their will is quite strong. But I didn't know that if they can stand up again after failure. So I try to find it out if they are capable.
I guess that's one of the should I say perks of being 3 times founder is that you have been through that journey of building a team before, that you have that industry experience and the network, so that you kind of have a more clear idea and understanding of what kind of people that you want to work with, and you have the people in mind as you're starting your startup. Oh, I should work with him, I should work with her. You kind of have that in mind, and I guess that's something that comes along with having been in the entrepreneurial journey for quite some time, which is great. And then, but for those who are just about to build their product, there's actually some questions that are coming up in the chat. So I'm going to read them out loud to you. And I think it's coming from a lot of early stage founders, so it's great. So first, I have Yuda asking a question. I'll read it for you. In the early startup with one founder and a team of fresh graduates, should the founder be taking more bold actions? Is the question. So I think he or she is asking, because you're the founder and you're sort of like this young team that's trying to learn through the experience, should they be taking more risks in terms of making more bold actions? What do you think?
Ah, that's a good question. I'm thinking about my old days. You know, yeah. Please don't listen to the old mans like me. Yeah, that too much. But let me share my thoughts. Okay, so it depends. So one of the advantage of the novice founders and younger the startup founding members is that they can do the things without fear, and they can stand up from the failure much better than the second or third time founders. If you fail third time, you can start, of course, fourth time, but it's quite difficult. But first time, second time would be easier and very encouraged, right? So the bold part or the listening to others part, it depends on your leadership and depends on your philosophy and the culture that you want to build. So I said that my first startup, there was no leaders, but I don't regret that culture itself. We were open to each other. We discussed a lot, and we liked each other a lot, and so that's why they are my lifelong friends. But still, we can. If I go back, I can do it a little bit better. Not just choosing the bold or deciding by myself, but there can be some way to make it better. That's all I can tell her or him.
All right, thank you. Thank you for that very genuine and thoughtful answer. We have another question from Swarnavo, and I'll read it out for you. I'm in the ideation phase of a startup. I have a clear idea about the product. Should I focus more on funding or should I build up a team to attract A players? I need funding or the story is the question. So I guess it's about knowing when to build your team, knowing when to fundraise. And for early startup founders, it's kind of hard to tell because I guess there's a lot of content out there that tells you what to do as you're a startup founder. So what do you think is the guidance that you had in your heart when you were building your startup?
Got it. Got it. Great. Congrats first. Yeah, having the great idea. And I really like this phrase. The idea is the cheapest one. The execution is everything. So I know that it must be a great idea, but still the idea can be thought by others. So the really important is that how you act, how you execute. So of course you will be able to get fund using the ideas, but trust me, the investors will ask the similar questions to like me. So if you validate the idea, whatever the method is, it will give you the power. It will give you the power to build the teams. It will give you the power to get the funded. So in that matter, I'd like to recommend one book. So the name is The Right It. It's quite great book to validating the ideas. I hope that it helps the team.
Sorry, can you repeat the name of the book one more time?
Sorry about my pronunciation. The Right It. The writing.
All right, all right. So book recommendation for y'all. And all right. There's another question from Arjun, and it's, hey, do you have any tips for teens who want to get into entrepreneurship but is restricted by schools and society?
Oh, thank you for asking. I mean, I don't know, but I feel like I'm getting refreshed by getting the question from the teens. Yeah, I do really admire you. I admire him. So uh, I hope that you try many things, even though there can be some obstacles. So recently, I heard some interesting story from others. So these days, the company, university students is dropping out quite often, relatively than before. And people come to them and ask, why are you dropping out? Your university is quite good. Why don't you graduate and start? And they say that the AI era, they they think that it will not, this kind of the opportunities will not come in their lifetime unless now. So that's why they decide to drop out. that kind of strong thought, they make the moves, right? I heard that even some teenagers drop out the school to start something. I'm not recommending the dropout, but that kind of thought is quite encouraging. And the VCs and other startup founders also with them to start something bigger and bigger. So I'm sorry, I don't have the tools or method because I was a good student when I was in high school. But I hope that my words help to do something.
That's great. Thank you for sharing that. And I think also speak not maybe not as a teen, but also as a young entrepreneur. I believe there are many of young entrepreneurs watching it right now. And I think one of the biggest challenges that young entrepreneurs face is the lack of authority they feel they have when they're trying to build their team. It feels like you always need to find another student to co-found with you, and which could be a really good way too. But as you're building a product, you do need to face a lot of different people and to be able to convince the world of your ideas, no matter how young you are, no matter how lacking of expertise you may have in the certain industry. Have you had an experience of because you have been a founder since ever since graduating from college? So have you have ever encountered any of those instances where you had to convince the other of your expertise or influence, and any tips that you could give around that idea?
I'm not sure if I understand the question correctly. Can you make
Right.
it a little shorter?
Right, right. So, for people who may feel that they don't have enough influence to build a team or convince others of their ideas, what would you recommend they do based on your previous experience?
Hmm. Great point. Great point. So before answering the things, and before answer, uh, actually, I got a lot of benefit from the previous startups. So this time, we were funded last June or July. Of course, the getting funded is not that easy, but still relatively easy. And even the market was not that good. So the people I met, the work I have done, the career path, it helped me to build my credibility. And thankfully, other people who can back us, trusted us. So I hope that you're still the questioner, you're still early stage. There is a lot of long path. So you are going to build the authority, and every your moves will help you to build the credibility. That's what I wanted to say before the answer. Okay, so the answer about the authority or the others. So there are two things that we cannot purchase, right? So one is time. The second one is the social credit, trust between the people. We need the time and so many things for the deep trust, right? It cannot purchase by the money. So I don't think that there's an easy way to build it. So instead of building the authority, I recommend to act on it and validate the ideas or whatever it is. So again, I can recommend the write it, the book for him or her.
All right, thank you. And we have some other questions, but just before that, are you a technical founder?
Yeah, I'm technical co-founder.
All right. And are some of your other members non-technical founders, or are you all technical founders?
We are all technical founders.
Ah, I see. All right, then maybe this might not be very relevant to your current experience, but Investimate was asking, his ID is Investimate, asking how important do you think it is to possess technical or building skills as a founder? So for you, you've had the technical skills and you're working in the AI space, but if you were also building a product that's based on software, how important would you think it is if you were to give your opinion on it?
Mhm, mhm. Yeah, there's a general answer and a honest answer.
Ooh.
So let me go to the honest answer. So as you said, I hadn't been non-technical founders. So it's a little bit difficult for me to compare that. But as a technical founder, it helped me a lot, really a lot. So the first thing is that if you ask some questions to other engineers or developers, is it possible? So the quick answer is that, of course, if you have enough time and money, everything is possible. That's the answer. So I feel the confidence. Based on the confidence, we can expand our ideas or thoughts and abilities. That's why I think that the technical founders helps and it helps your businesses. Meanwhile, I don't think that everyone should be a technical founder or engineers. Of course, there will be some ways. What I'm saying is that uh, learning how it works and the thinking about understanding what it is will helpful for you to think about the solutions. Of course, the problem is much more important, but still, you can think about the solutions and move on.
All right, thank you. And there is another question about being a founder and your social life and your life in general. So I think I want to sort of rephrase it and ask you about do you what are some moments when you feel alone or lonely as a founder if you have um been into those situations, and in those times how do you sort of overcome those moments?
That's also a great question. So ironically, I felt that I was really alone when the co-founder was there are seven co-founders. Ironically. So at the moment, so when we were arguing about the directions, about the features or whatever it is, so I had some ideas. Of course, the discussion and decision should be made. But when the discussion is getting longer, it's quite tiring. It's much better to do something and learn. It's much faster, and we can learn a lot. Meanwhile, at the time, uh, as I said, we equally think that we have owned the decision makings. We have the same roles. All people are CEOs, so we cannot just do it. So, but at the moment, I was formerly CEO, right? But I cannot do things that what I want. I mean, of course, not CEOs can do everything they want, but still, I cannot make the decisions as a CEO. But still, I was CEO. That was the lonely part. So I'm not a smoker, but at that time I time to time smoke. But these days I have the co-founder, right? Liam. He helps me a lot when I feel really lonely, and I'm not I don't have this strong mentality. I'm quite get hurt when I face the failure or I got the negative feedback from the customers. My feeling goes down really deeply. But I have resilience. I can go up again quite fast. Every time Liam, who is relatively steady and still, he helps me to come back to the normal track.
When you had the seven co-founders when you started, why did you think that was what you had to do back at that time? What was important to you before when you had those seven co-founders that made you be a CEO but still struggle from not being able to make decisions of your own? What was sort of in your head when you were in that situation?
I don't get the question. So,
So
mm.
what do you think was more important to you back then when you had seven co-founders, that stopped you from screw it, I'm gonna do it all, like screw it, we don't need seven co-founders. Why don't you think you were able to make that decision?
Okay. So I'm sorry that I don't think I get the question clearly, but yeah. Let me rephrase it. So at that time, we have seven co-founders, and we were struggling something at the moment, right? At first, it was very helpful, but at the moment, we were struggling. And there could be some choices for me so that changing the culture or the decision-making process or anything else, or keeping the culture, right? So I did keeping the culture, and we all made the decision all together. And it made us slow down, but I didn't change the things. And
I
that's the point I regret. Yeah,
so
it's not about yeah,
then
okay.
we would say back in, if you could have known something, if you had realized this before that you do now, what would it be?
Yeah. In that case, I will, I should have share my thoughts clearly and honestly with the team members. I didn't. I was struggling about these feelings and the difficulties, but on my face, I needed to be the person who keeps the culture and pursuing that we are all equal powers, responsibilities, and that we are all owners. But it's not matter of the power over responsibility. It's matter of the roles and decision-making processes. We were so young, we didn't know anything. We didn't know that between the co-founders, being honest is really essential. We didn't know that. So if I go back, I will clearly share it and probably try to read some other books to do something. So in that matter, if I can recommend one more book, I also really like the Traction I mentioned before. Yeah.
Awesome, thank you. And I think we have time for just one more question from Arjun. And I think it's a good question to wrap it up. So it's about mindset one more time. But what kind of mindset do you think is most important to have in order to become a successful entrepreneur? And do you believe that your greatest success comes after your biggest failure? So I guess this is one of the hypotheses that he may also have. So what do you think?
Mm, mindset. I don't think there's one mindset for the founders. I will say my mindset. Yeah. Uh, if so, for me, it's very important to act on it. There must be some worries, anxiety, and maybe you don't have the plan. Maybe you don't know the customers. Maybe you don't have any customers or traction or the ideas. You can face some fails, negative feedback from the customers. But if you act on it and launching something, bringing your product to the market, you must learn something. That's why I value most.
All right, thank you. Thank you so much for sharing that. So before we go, so oh wow, an hour has already passed. So before we go, are there any things that you want to share last minute before we wrap up?
Yeah, we are still very young, early stage startup, so we are going to have a lot of struggles. I hope you to be with us and supporting us, and I hope all the entrepreneurs grow together. So if you are considering about adopting AI for your workspaces or work processes, come to us. I'd like to talk.
Definitely. Thank you so much, Snow. So before we end let's give a round of applause to Snow in the chat. And also leave your comments or feedback on the live webinar in the chat as well. Thank you, Snow, for coming in. And before we end, I just wanted to make a comment. So Snow has been one of the active members of the EO Builders Club, which is the membership for founders worldwide who are lovers of our content, who are passionate about building their own things from different parts of the world. So if you're interested in becoming one of the members of EO Builders, you can also come in with a 20% promotion code that we just uploaded on the chat. So make sure to check that out after. I'll be leaving you with a QR code at the end. And thank you so much for joining us today. Have a great night, day, morning, everyone, and we'll see you in the next session. Thank you so much. Bye, guys.
Thank you. Bye bye.